Thank you, everyone. I'm super excited to be here with all of you today. And after these two great speeches, I'm 100% sure that we can all learn something and experience the excitement that at least these speakers have, and I hope I will have too. My speech is not actually going to be the typical three-point speech. It will be a story about my career and what I learned through missing the podium by 300ths of a second in Olympic Games. When I was 7 years old, my father passed away for cancer. And I have always been super excited and positive kid. I still am, like kid, and positive and excited. But at that moment, I really got depressed. And my mother took me to therapy, and there was a lot of things that she tried to do. But then she got a great idea. She took me to sports. She took me to speed skating. She thought that the hobby and a new friends could help me through that hard time. And it did help me. But because I came from a single-parent home, we actually didn't have a lot of money. So my first years, I actually skated with this sweatsuit. I didn't have money for the real racing suits. But there's one really big benefit with this sweatsuit, because there's pockets. And think about yourself as a 7-year-old candy addict. It's really hard to skate even one practice without taking the one candy. So every now and then I hid some candy to my pockets. I skated far away from my coach and took some candy. And that was the mentality for my skating. I really enjoyed that. I got new friends and it was fun. Of course, a couple of years later, I also got this real racing suit and I felt like a true speed skater. And at this moment, I actually started to dream about going to Olympic Games one day. By the way, at that time, my speed on ice was about 20 kilometers per hour. So 300ths of a second was about 17 centimeters in distance. Well, 2006, my dream came true. I actually went to my first Olympic Games in Torino, Italy. I was 22nd in my own race at the 500 meter. And I was really happy how it went. But maybe I was even more excited about the Olympic spirit, all the other sports that I got to see. And that made me a big memory for my future. And after my dream came true, I actually felt a little bit empty. I always thought that when your dream comes true, you start to live this dream life. But I actually didn't feel anything special. And I was ready to quit speed skating because I got out of speed skating everything I ever wanted. But after taking a couple of months break, I was actually ready to continue, but I wanted more. And I did set a new goal for myself to actually win the Olympic gold medal. And I specifically wanted to win that in Olympic Games in Vancouver 2010. So in 3 years when I made the decision. But I knew that I actually have to do a couple of things before I can try to reach my new goal. So I was thinking what it takes to actually win the Olympic gold medal. And right away, there was a couple of things that came to my mind. First of all, it was my nutrition. Because I basically lived by McDonald's and frozen pizza. But I went to Olympic Games with that kind of food, so each and every one of you still have a chance if you're not eating correctly. And I got a couple of tips. First one, you have to eat every 3 to 4 hours. And second tip, every meal should include some protein, some carbohydrates, some salad or veggies. Pretty simple and not too hard. Second thing was my sleeping. I was sleeping about 8 to 9 hours, but my sleeping times were super irregular. So I started to sleep regular hours, and I find out that actually it's more important to sleep regular hours than to sleep longer. And when I got used to this regular hours, I felt amazing. It was also because of my nutrition, but also my sleep. And third thing that I actually had to change before my dream comes true was my mindset. Because I was so far away from the top skaters, I didn't actually believe that I can compete with them and be at the same level or actually beat them. So, to be honest, it didn't happen like this. It took me a couple of years to get really good results, better and better results, and skating good practices and making my mental preparation ready for the games. At the 2010 Olympic Games, I was ready. I was actually one of the medal containers. And I was really hoping to win the medal. And at that time, we actually skated twice the 500 meter, and they combined the time. After first race, I reached the line, I watched the scoreboard, and I saw number 1. I was like, yeah! That was exactly how it was supposed to go. I won the first race. I actually skated the fastest race in the whole Olympic Games. But in the second race, I made a small mistake. And after the race, when I watched to the scoreboard, I saw these numbers. 0.03 seconds. And I actually was off the podium by 0.03 of a second. So it's about 48 centimeters in distance. And I got crushed so bad. And the problem was actually my identity. I was thinking that I have to be Olympic medalist, that someone actually cares about me. I thought that I'm a nobody if I don't have that Olympic medal. And because my identity got crushed, I got crushed. And to be honest, it actually took me more than a year that I didn't think about this moment every single day. I actually said in one interview that this moment felt worse than the death of my own father. After this Olympic Games, I actually had 5 years that I was struggling really badly. There was a 5 years break outside the podium. I didn't win any World Cup medals in 5 years. And it took a lot of mental strength to keep going. But after 5 years, I was done. I didn't want it anymore. I wasn't good enough. But somehow, I thought that maybe I can do it. I still have that dream. I'm still going for that. But I know that I have to make some changes and I have to put all in one more time. And we decided to move to Canada with my whole family because there's no indoor ice skating rinks in Finland. So I couldn't train there. We were always traveling. So we moved to Canada with my whole family. And after 2 months that I had been skating in Canada, there came a first World Cup. And right away, I jumped back to the podium. I was second in the first World Cup. And I broke the 5-year break without any medals. And I actually made a new national record in the same race. Let's fast forward this year's February. It was my 4th Olympic Games. And this was second time in my life that I actually went to the Olympic Games knowing that I have a chance to win Olympic medal. Maybe we win the whole thing. And I was ready. But I also knew that speed skating, especially 500 meters, is so tight that there is 10 more guys who can also win those medals. But the most important thing was that my foundation was way stronger than 8 years ago. And when I speak about foundation, I mainly mean 6 different things. Number 1, identity. My identity was not anymore about my success. about my work. It was not something that someone can take away from me. It was something that no one can take away from me. And actually for me, number one identity is that I am a son of God. Second was my values. My values had been changed in these last 8 years. One of the big things was that we have now 2 kids. That changes things, right? So I was really looking my values. I was living by my values, and I was really strict about that things. That I didn't want to make any compromises with my values. I was even more skeptical, I paid more attention to my nutrition than ever before. I was also really strict about my sleeping. And exercise, that was my job. That was my main job. And when you're a professional athlete, you train 2 times a day, maybe even more, almost every single day. And that was my life. And the last one was my mindset. And I think that I was actually even stronger in my mind than ever before. And when the race came, I was actually in the last pair. So after I finished, I knew right away what will be my placing in these Olympic Games. And I still remember the feeling, being on the line, standing there, waiting for the gun. Pum! And I went like a rocket, the first 100 meter. When I came to the 100 meter line, my time was actually 9 seconds, 61 hundredths. So about the same speed that Usain Bolt ran in his best races. By the way, my speed was better in the 100 meter. And when I came to the last corner, that was the moment that I actually made the mistake 8 years ago. But this time, I didn't have any problems. I didn't think about that at all. And when I crossed the finish line, I put my leg as far as I could. And I was like fist pumping myself. Whoa, that was the best race I've ever done. That was actually my personal best in these lowland tracks. And I was super excited. And I watched the scoreboard and I saw number 4. And I also saw those numbers, 0.03. Second time in my lifetime, I lost Olympic medal by 0.03 of a second. And I couldn't believe that. I was just thinking that this can't be true. This can't be happening. But at the same time, I was really proud how I did it, how well I skated. And one thing that happened the same night actually helped me to go through this hard time. And that was the moment when I called my wife that same night. My wife is actually here. And we spoke a little bit, we cried a bit. And then at the end, I asked, how did my kids react to this loss? And my wife was a little bit like awkward, and I was, what's going on? And she started to explain me like, before your race, there was cartoons in TV. And your kids didn't want to switch the channel when you were skating. And I was like, what? Are you saying that my kids didn't even see my race? This has been my dream the last 10 years. We moved all across the world because this moment. And I was really angry. But at the same time, something clicked. And I started to think, what is my kids actually thinking? And I understood that my kids are only thinking, when is Daddy coming back home? They don't care about the medal. They just wait for me to open the door, grab my kids and say that I love you, I've missed you so much. You are the most important thing in my life. And I think I learned something very valuable about life and about love. And we rarely see that kind of love in our adults' life. And I hope we will see that more. So in my mind, peak performance is not about winning. It's about dealing with those disappointments and with strong foundations, you can deal with those disappointments. Thank you.